All right, I just got back from a week trip across the country in Letcher County, Whitesburg, Kentucky, and Delphi, Indiana, doing boots on the ground in a couple of my cases. While I was out on the road, we had a gag that went off. We called it our Mugshot Gag. I'm going to explain to you now what happened that night, make a couple of apologies, straighten some things out, and then move into some stuff that just happened last night, some big moments in the Delphi case, and most importantly, out now in the Letcher County case. We're going to talk about that. The devil's in the details. Let's get into the fireside chat. 2 nights, the mugshot night and last night's live show. All right, so we have a few comments from the people in the from the chat before and the chat tonight. This is from last night's chat. I got my mug and y'all got shit tonight. LOL. So Tanya 7 was making this comment because while I was on the road I think I was in Kentucky when that happened. I decided maybe we were, who knows where the hell we were. We were all over the place. I decided on a whim to do a gag. I want to explain this a little bit because some of you got upset and you shouldn't be, but a while back we did a moment where on camera behind scenes, two people showed up at the same time on our backstage before the show wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, and they both had the same kind of outfit on. And as a gag, we all said, hey, do you have a hoodie and glasses in your room? Yeah, you do. And so for shits and giggles, we all decided to put on hoodies and sunglasses. And we said, whatever we do, let's not tell anybody why we're doing it. Let's just see if they catch on to what's going on. And that night was a lot of fun. And we said, we need to do this from time to time, some kind of gag where we don't explain what's going on and we don't acknowledge it. Now, that's caused some problems. So I'll explain that in a minute. So what we did is we did a mugshot night. I was on the road. I happened to have a mug, actually bought a mug for the event. And I said, look, it's been a while since we had a little fun. I'm on the road. Let's do this. Everybody grab a mug and hold it on camera, visible at all times, and don't explain to anybody why you're holding it. Don't ever take a drink out of it. That's part of the funny thing. If you want to take a drink from something else, but never drink out of the mug that's in your hand. Just hold it visibly on screen at all times. And you can add whatever flair you want to add to that mug. And I'll explain that more in a minute. And so that was the basic rules. Whatever you do, don't acknowledge the mug. Don't acknowledge when people ask you, why do you have mugs in your hands? Don't acknowledge it. Just continue to talk, do your show, keep a straight face, don't laugh, and kind of ignore it. That was the instructions to my panel. So I apologize for those of you who got upset because you're ignoring the chat. We've been asking you all night long, what's with the fucking mugs? And we ignored it. I understand that bothered you. By the way, when I drop an F-bomb, what do? I still try to do this whole, that thing. Parental discretion is advised. So that was the gag. And I asked people to do that. So I got a couple of comments to share with you, and then we'll get into this a little bit more. So here's one from Fuzzy Hates Mugs. Screw your mugs, LOL. Fizzy Cakes, I think, was the user originally. They literally changed their name in the middle of the mug gag to Fizzy Hates Mugs because Fizzy was getting upset. Fizzy Cakes was getting so upset at the mugs and nobody explaining what the fuck we were doing with the mugs that they changed their nickname mid-show to Fizzy Hates Mugs. Now, still, I think, Fizzy Hates Mugs. Screw your mugs, LOL. Upset about the mug thing. Now, I don't think they're terribly upset. That's why the LOL is there. But it did get to a point where it got awkward. And I'll tell you why it got awkward in a moment. Let me add one more comment. This is Janae 22. I'm still waiting for an answer about the damn mugs. Okay. One of the things that became difficult for me is I didn't anticipate this. I said, again, to my panelists, whatever you do, don't acknowledge the mugs. Somebody gifted money to one of our panelists in exchange for hey, here's some money. Now answer the damn question about the mugs. Which I felt, oh shit, I didn't anticipate that. What if somebody dropped a good amount of money, like a $50 chat? Like I would feel really horrible if somebody dropped a big amount of money to get the answer and we ignored them. And so I didn't know what my panelist was going to do. That gift, I think, came into Logan on our show from Bronx Tales. She was a rock star. She literally said, By the way, there was a super sticker that came up and I couldn't read it. Did anybody read it? And then Robin's like, I couldn't read it either. And it was hard for us to all keep a straight face because literally the reason why she couldn't mention or read the super chat was her rule was you can't acknowledge it. So to read the question about the mugs would be acknowledging it. So she literally said, I can't read that chat. Can you read it? No, nobody can. That was the rules of the game. We thought it was fun. Some of you got upset. Hopefully you're not really, really upset, but a few people did get a little upset and felt it was disrespectful. I think somebody even said, we all got punked. Well, it wasn't meant to be a punk. It was meant to just have some fun. And we have some ideas like that coming up in the future. That's why I encourage you to watch the show live, because we're not going to announce when those things are going to happen. They'll just happen from time to time. So if something weird appears to be going on, it's probably just a gag that we're running. And I would ask you as the audience to try to figure out what the rules were for the panelists. Because again, and let me tell you some funny things that happened to take a moment for this. Logan had a hysterical, several moments, Logan did hysterical shit. What Logan did is she would lean out of the camera, but she would hold her mug in the air so it was always on screen, even when she's leaning out of the camera to take care of something. That was hysterical to me because I told her, whatever you do, keep your mug on screen at all times. So she would literally lean out of the camera and leave her hand up in the air with the mug holding up. It was hysterical. She also had Bronx, her dog, in the room, and she was playing with the dog, putting a ball in the empty cup, the empty mug, showing it to the dog, putting it back in the mug, showing it to it was hysterical. At some point, she just had a lot of fun with that mug. I think she did something else with the mug at one point that was very funny, maybe putting it on top of her head, whatever the point being. She was a rock star, never acknowledged it. And of course, that funny moment where she's like, I can't read that chat. Somebody left a sticker. Did anybody read it? No, I can't read it. That was hysterical. Dago's contribution, and again, none of us planned out what it was. It was like, hey, do whatever you want to add your unique flair to it. So Dago, what he did is he ended up switching out like 8 different mugs. Over the course of the time, he had a bunch of different mugs on screen at different times. He kept switching out mugs. He put one mug up behind him on a stand, and that stayed up there for a while. We thought he was cheating for a while because I said, hold it in your hand, and he just kind of put it up behind him so he could just have his hands free. But then he started adding new mugs to the scenario. So that was funny shit and unscripted. And so I appreciate the humor that he added to it as well. JJ from State of the Deep, from time to time would kind of raise and tip his glass to us like cheers, and some of us would just spontaneously tip our mugs back to him in response without explaining why we're doing that. That was funny shit, completely unscripted, his choice to do so. At the end, Robin, among other things, was kind of tossing her mug and being very animated and doing one of these things, making it clear that there was nothing in the mug the entire time. So everybody had their own little take on it. It was very funny. I feel like I'm missing somebody. Did I miss one of our panelists? I got Dago, I got Robin, I got JJ, I got Logan. Myself, I had a Cartman mug. My shtick at the end was to use a famous line from South Park, screw you guys, I'm going home. So that was my shtick. And again, it was just supposed to be fun. We want to do things like that where we don't tell you exactly what the gag is. Hopefully you can figure it out. And then in the Fireside chat the next day, I'll explain what the rules of the game were. See if you got it right. We're going to try to do that from time to time just for adding some fun. Mert, damn it. Is that how you print it? Mert, damn it. Hello, best panel and chat in the world. KY or Kentucky sounds like PA, Pennsylvania. So thank you, first of all, for those people who say things like this. It means a lot. Best panel in the world, best chat in the world means a lot to us. We do think that we have a special thing. And so I really, really appreciate you saying that you think that we've got something special. That means a lot to us because we also think that we have something special, and we're not really known as much as we should, it seems like. Seems like we should be doing better, but I love it that we have some very loyal followers and appreciate that very much. The Hulktress. And people wonder why I have issues with law enforcement. Sorry, 1-1. Now, what we're talking about is we got into a long discussion about how corrupt one of the counties were that I was visiting on my trip on boots in the ground in Letcher County, Whitesburg, Kentucky. Letcher County, Kentucky, and Whitesburg, Kentucky. and it was very, very corrupt. We heard rumors from locals that the local police were corrupt, the sheriff's department in the county is corrupt, and the Kentucky State Police are corrupt. So everybody, all the way, hands down, every part of that area has corrupt cops. That was the idea. And people were talking about corruption seems to be a thing everywhere in law enforcement. And so a lot of people have a general distrust towards law enforcement. One, for those of you who don't know, is NYPD law enforcement. He is 20 plus years lieutenant in law enforcement, getting soon to be promoted to captain. He's taken his captain's exam and passed it, and he's waiting for his next job promotion as the captain. And so he's a major part of our show, and we appreciate what he brings to the channel. He's one of the good guys, folks. He's one of the good guys. He doesn't, again, I say this all the time, good cops don't like bad cops either. And so there are a lot of good cops, and there are unfortunately a lot of bad cops as well. And so law enforcement hasn't been doing themselves a lot of favors when they go towards corruption, because they're entrusted with a lot of trust. And unfortunately, there's a saying, with absolute power comes absolute corruption. You give somebody a badge and a lot of authority where nobody's going to arrest them, then they can get away with, well, murder sometimes. Right Turn Clyde, 8575. Holy shit. Just read that name for the first time. Right Turn Clyde. That's some shit from my childhood. I think it's an 80s reference. I think it's a 1980s reference. Was it as far back as the 70s? Oh my God. It could be the 70s, but I think it's an 80s. We're talking about, I think, if this person where they, in fact, yeah, they've got an orangutan for their thumbnail. 100% sure Right Turn Clyde is coming from this. This was Clint Eastwood, or he would do all those fighting movies where he was a fighter and boxing for money. And he had an orangutan that he taught Right Turn Clyde, and the orangutan would stick his hand out. And at one point he punches a biker in the face. I think it was long time since I've seen that movie. But thank you so much for the trip down memory lane with the Right Turn Clyde, 8575. Dago, could you ask one a question? Kind of following up on what you ended with today. So this person had watched Dago's stream today. I didn't see Dago's stream, but Dago did tell us about it backstage. And anyway, so he's asking if Dago can ask a question for 1 for him. Why can't law enforcement agencies get along during investigations like Idaho 4 or NG, the Nancy Guthrie case? Power, money, pat on the back. We did talk about that a lot. Unfortunately, law enforcement agencies, especially local law enforcement agencies, get in pissing matches with the government, the FBI, for example, to see who's going to break the case. There's a prestige that people feel, the local department, if they beat the FBI, the feds to the case. Or the feds often are perceived as an outside force who comes in and steals all the credit of local law enforcement that's doing all the boots on the ground work, and then the feds come in and steal all the work. And so there's becomes this general pissing match between who's going to get credit for breaking the crime. And a lot of times the feds, some say, only get involved when they've got a sure thing, or they can come in and swoop in and take all of the credit. So the feds will come in, poke their nose and stuff, and wait around till they can either get all the credit, or they just bow out and leave. And so people, law enforcement, tend to not like the feds' involvement, because they're just there to take credit when they can take credit about, look at what we did. We're the FBI. We broke some major case. If they don't feel like they can beat you to it, they'll bow out and then let you guys take the thing. And so it just leads to a general level of distrust amongst law enforcement that we see play out a lot. This happened in the Luigi Mangione case, where Tish, why am I missing her last name? Or maybe that was her last name. Anyways, the commissioner in New York trying to beat the feds to finding the shooter of Bryan Thompson in New York. YouTube Police 29, I think, is another law enforcement professional. We've had the pleasure on my channel of having many law enforcement and attorneys, defense attorneys, and people up and down walks of criminal justice that watch our show, and we're so blessed. We've had attorneys on the show again, Ali Benevento, Cynthia Thornton, John Ray, we've had many attorneys, it seems, on the show. And then we have law enforcement. We have NYPD. Again, we have one who's NYPD. We've had Senior Wachowski, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, on Dago's show that also watches our lives together when we do the Crimes After Dark. And YouTube Police 29 is another one. And we had another one on the Luigi Mangione thing that used to follow us a long time ago, a cop. So it's very cool having our law enforcement friends interested in true crime and adding their expertise and their experiences on the force to our discussion. So thank you very much. And plea deals, they said, are just way overused. And we can't agree with that more strongly. Plea deals are used way too much in this country. Well, most things don't go to trial. Most things plea out, and it's a problem, a systemic problem, in my opinion. Somebody countered later on, and I don't think I'm going to highlight that comment, that if we didn't have plea deals, our courts would be overloaded. So the counter is we need to have plea deals because our courts are overloaded, and so you have to have some quick answers. I don't think that's the answer. Myself, plea deals are used way too much. That's where I'm leaning as well. And Crystal White says, hey all, does anyone know if DA still goes live with Birdie on Mondays? So the answer to that is in flux. Birdie and I, for a while, were doing every single Monday together, and we enjoyed it. We had a great time, and it was a great chemistry, and people loved it, and it was great for both of us. In time, there was a moment where it felt a little forced. We would get together and we wouldn't know exactly what we're going to talk about. And then Birdie would try to push me in different directions and I wasn't comfortable and it kind of got weird and it kind of got awkward. And so we decided, hey, maybe we'll go to an every other week thing. So we're not forcing the conversation. So that every other week became the new standard for a while. So again, Birdie and I would go every other Monday night just to make it so that we're not forcing the conversation. And only recently have we kind of decided maybe we'll even step it down a little bit more because again, there's not necessarily a lot of overlap on what we're covering at the moment. And so we thought, again, let's not force a show just for the sake of having a show together. So we're kind of moving towards if we both have something that is hot and pressing and we want to talk about it and get each other's opinion on camera, we'll do so. Birdie and I still talk in text and phone calls from time to time. We still keep in communication. We just had a long discussion today, in fact, on Monday as I'm recording this, about whether or not we were going to go live together. And we talked about this and we caught up again on things. So we are very, very interested in maintaining our communication, but we don't want to force a show. I've got my own show. He's got his own show, and we don't want to force anything. So that's why we're kind of stepping back. No bad blood, in my opinion, and I think in his opinion as well. We don't have bad blood towards each other, nothing like that. And in fact, we expect to collaborate together more in the future. So thanks for asking, and I hope that doesn't completely disappoint you. All right, Lone Tree 714 says, my copy of Framed arrived today. First of all, a lot of you are getting the book Framed. We keep talking about how you really everyone needs to get a copy of and read or listen, if you want to do audiobook, the book Framed by John Grisham. Why? Many people still to this day ask us, why would Bryan Kohberger plead guilty to something he didn't do? You can bet your ass if I didn't do something, you could never compel me to plead guilty to something I didn't do. No one does that. Well, you need to catch a book called Framed by John Grisham and another individual, and I'm embarrassed I keep forgetting his name. What a disservice I'm doing to that other author. But two guys wrote this together, one with, I think, Centurion, an advocacy group overturning wrongful convictions and things like this, and John Grisham helped write that book. It is a fantastic book that explains how law enforcement, and this is the sickest part, and the part that we spent a lot of time talking about last night, or tonight, I guess, as I'm recording this. And that is, so many times law enforcement and the prosecutor know for a fact the person that they're going after to put away for life in prison without the possibility of parole or even death at times, know for a fact they didn't do it. But they need conviction rates, closure rates, case closure rates, and they are willing to put innocent people away for things they didn't do. And it happens over and over again. Sometimes we're fortunate enough to see those individuals go to jail themselves for railroading people, perhaps for their entire career before they finally get caught. But it happens all the time, where and again, it literally rises to the level of sociopaths, people who don't care about sending innocent people away to jail or prison or even death for things that they know damn well they didn't do. They know they didn't do it, but they don't have a better suspect, or they decided to look away from the suspect for whatever reason. That's also a thing in there, and purposely put somebody away for something they didn't do so they can maintain their conviction rate. It's a sick, sick problem. And I think it's bigger than people realize. Read a copy of that book, and people get forced into plea deals because it's a system that's designed to break people and get them to plea out rather than face worse circumstances. And they don't really care a lot of times at the end of the day whether you did it or not. What they care is, can they convict you? That's what they care about. Can they convict you? It doesn't matter if you did it or not. Can they convict you? Ange K87 says, Rhonda and I are obsessed with the Nancy Guthrie case. Now, this is one of those really, really tough areas. My wife, for example, I've told my wife on and on, look, I don't cover Nancy Guthrie case. I've got 5, 6 cases that I'm running right now, and they are heavy monster cases with lots of legal documents to break down, lots of interviews going on with people behind the scene, and I'm doing my best to pay attention to 5 cases, which is already overwhelming. And then the Nancy Guthrie case showed up, and everybody wanted to talk about it. And my wife countered, you have to talk about it because everybody in America is talking about it. It would be a mistake for you not to cover the biggest case in America. How this case got to be bigger than, say, Charlie Kirk's assassination, I don't know. But that's where we are at the moment. It's the new talking point that everyone wants to talk about. And so I have begrudgingly, in a way, allowed us to continue to talk every single night about the Guthrie case and every single night about the newest update. Some people have warned me, don't go down the rabbit hole, don't get tricked. This is a distraction. They want us talking about Guthrie instead of these other cases, instead of the Epstein case. Whatever the case may be, we're being distracted from something by the next big thing on the horizon today. I'm well aware of that potential. Having said that, again, we are, at the end of the day, a true crime channel, and everyone seems to be interested in the Guthrie case. And so I will continue to ask my panelists who are more watching it. I'm not really following that case, but I ask my panelists who I know are following that case to give me updates, and we talk about it from time to time. So that's the way I'm treating it right now. Let me make sure you're clear. It's not that I don't care about the case. I do, however, like to be educated about the cases I talk about. So I don't want to half-ass the case, which is why I'm saying, look, we don't cover this case. I'll ask you guys about it. I'll sit back and listen. I won't provide a lot of thoughts because I'm not following that case. But I do want to give space to those people who want to hear it, like Ange K and my wife, who are literally obsessed with that case. The Flying Sky says Guthrie's case is a distraction for true crime researchers. This is what I was saying. It's a distraction from the Epstein files. That's what I'm saying. It's very possible that's the case. So I didn't realize I already had somebody queued up. This is, by the way, the little paperclip icon in this user is somebody else's chat. This is either from, actually, this must be from Dago's chat. So the Flying Sky from Dago's chat has that comment. Guthrie case is a distraction for true crime researchers. I'm with you a little bit on that. I think it's certainly distracting me because I've got big cases to follow. And I know that my team will follow my lead. And if I say we're just not going to talk about the Guthrie case, we won't. However, so many of you do want to talk about the Guthrie case that I'm going ahead and talking about it from time to time. But it is a bit of a distraction even for myself. All right, let's take a minute to talk real quick about the gifters tonight. I like to save this for a little ways into the video because I don't want to make you sit around for it at the beginning, nor do I want to save it to the very last. This is always where I like to put it, right here. So George King, 1972, I think a member, or became a new member of Dago's True Crime Cafe. That's what it looks like. I think Dago is the only one who is streaming with us tonight, co-streaming, and that paper clip that you see on the screen indicates it's coming from somebody else's co-stream. So I think that would be Dago's new member there. George King, thank you so much for watching the show, becoming a new member of Dago's True Crime Cafe. Very, very cool. Cat Farm 42_1 has been a member of my channel for 6 months. So thank you so much for the continued support. It's $2.99 to be a member of my channel. I think more than anything, Cat Farm does it just to support the channel. But there's a lot of content there for $3 that you can get, bonus content. So hello to everyone checking in on my way to bed. Thank you, Cat Farm, for dropping in, giving a like, giving some money, showing some love, all of the things you do. And by the way, Cat Farm does a lot of stuff for us behind the scenes that you don't know about. We'll just leave it at that right now, but they do a lot of stuff for us. So she's amazing. Thank you so much, Cat Farm, for that. Reasonable Doubter 22, also on our channel, gave a $5 super sticker and said, or super chat. Which one is it? Super sticker, super chat. Anyways, I've been binging on Mayor of Kingstown. I'm convinced the level of corruption in that show is alive and well in towns across America. I haven't watched Mayor of Kingstown. I thought it sounded good to myself, so I might, on your recommendation, check it out sometime if I can find some time in my real life true crime journey. And then Chevy Metal, get you on my ticket to midnight. All right, so Chevy Metal 69 Z28 $10 donation. Thank you so much for that. Remember the movie Walking Tall? Yes. Buford Puser's wife was killed in 67, and they recently exhumed her body. Buford is the #1 suspect now, and he blamed it on the Dixie Mafia. By the way, these kind of things, it's funny how many times America goes to bed thinking they got the right guy, and then a decade or two later, they're like, oh, by the way, we had it all wrong. But the people who were convinced it was who they told you it was at the time, by the way, do not go silently into the night. I feel like that's happening in cases that we're watching right now. People who are vehemently assured that they got the right guy. And then 10 years from now, when we find out they didn't have the right guy, it'll become a different story, but it is what it is. And then Michelle F22, looks like on Dago's side, gave a super sticker, $5 donation. Thank you so much, Michelle F22, for supporting our channels and our co-streaming. Appreciate it extremely much. And then Loving It Yup, gave this comment, which is, these people are in slavery. They're being held hostage by those that are supposed to protect them. Can she get into WITSEC? This transitions into a big discussion that took place that night, and that is Letcher County, Kentucky, Whitesburg, Kentucky, the case of Mickey Steins and Ben Fields. Mickey Steins being the sheriff that shot the judge, Kevin Mullins, in the judge's chamber in Whitesburg, Kentucky. My wife and I just recently went there and walked into the courthouse, into the sheriff's office, into various areas around there, walked the neighborhood, took photos, did all kinds of stuff, and met with locals talking about the mess that is Letcher County. And a lot of our discussion tonight on our show, although you're seeing it the day after, was about the corruption. You should check this out. If you haven't watched the live from last night, and when you're watching this now, go watch it. Go watch it. This case is enormous. We've also got interviews with locals that we've done on the channel so far. So follow the Mickey Steins playlist on my channel. Check that out. And while this is coming out, I believe the Defense Rests, a YouTuber from Australia, will have gone live already with a couple of the victims in the county this morning. Should have gone hours ago live this morning. Hopefully I was there for it. When you get this, hopefully I'm recording it before the thing. I got to wake up really early to start watching that. And hopefully by the time this gets pre-recorded and published, I'll have already watched it, if that makes any sense. Anyways, hope that you got to watch it as well. Go to the Defense Rest, spelled with the C for defense, the Australian way of spelling defense, a little different how we spell it in America. Jody's been amazing in that. So, and yes, so as Loving It Yup says, these people are in slavery. The people in that county are trapped into a system of drugs, into committing crimes, and then trapped by those crimes to stay in the system and get churned over and abused. It is a very difficult, not difficult, it is a very complex way that they're trapping people. Get yourself educated. It's huge. And we're trying to get attention on this case, federal attention on this case, because that county is running amok and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. Can they get into WITSEC? I don't know. The federal government would have to get involved and offer them witness protection. They certainly aren't going to go to the local police for witness protection. That's part of the problem. Thomas Sharp, 6540 says, and this is from Dago's chat, it looks like, Steins should get a medal, in my opinion, taking a high predator out. Who we're talking about is Mickey Steins, who shot the judge, Kevin Mullins, in the judge's chamber. Many people view Mickey Steins, who committed cold-blooded murder and gunned down a judge point blank, shot him 9 times right on camera in front of everybody. So many people view Mickey Steins as a hero in this case. How can that be? How can a cold-blooded murderer be a hero? Well, one, Mickey Steins is very well liked, has won re-election as sheriff in that county I don't know about many times, but several times, I think. He is well liked. In fact, the prosecution wants to move the trial out of the county because too many people like Mickey Steins, including, by the way, locals that I'm talking about who have been abused and churned over by a corrupt law enforcement, corrupt judge in that case. And one of the things I keep hearing from people is Mickey, the guy who shot the judge, was one of the good guys. Mickey may not be squeaky clean, but he's seen to be one of the good guys. That is a common theme from women who have been sexually abused by judges, attorneys, law enforcement in the area. And they said, you know who didn't do that to us? Mickey Steins. Mickey Steins never treated us that way. Mickey Steins was trying to help. Mickey Steins may have actually gone to the Kentucky State Police, I've been told by locals, to report on corruption that was happening, and they wouldn't investigate. Then Mickey Steins may have gone to the Attorney General of the state of Kentucky to start the investigation, and they may have started that investigation. And what happened in the judge's chambers when Mickey Steins decided to shoot Kevin Mullins may be a bigger thing than you realize. It may not be a man simply losing his mind because he was under a lot of stress. When you hear why Mickey Steins was under stress, you might understand what happened. At least that's what we're hearing. And again, locals say Mickey Steins may not be squeaky clean. He may have done some shady shit, but what he wasn't is the kind of predator that some of the other men in that county were. And so pay attention to that case. And this individual says, I think he should get a medal for taking a predator out. Because again, Kevin Mullins may have been, according to the locals that we're talking to, is assuredly, according to the locals we're talking to, a predator of top notch, top caliber, a high functioning. Well, he's dead now, unfortunately. I don't even know where to go with that. I never want somebody to die. So let's get that out of the way. But depending on your perspective, he wasn't a good guy. Let's leave it at that. James McClurge, 5099, says, I appreciate you, Lee, for going to the sheriff's station. I could not do it. Yeah. Thank you very, very much. I was unfortunately super nervous. I was embarrassed at myself for how nervous I was because I did get a little short of breath at one point. I walked in there with full confidence. I saw a sheriff's department. It could have been a deputy or it could have been the actual sheriff. He met me outside and he's like, can I help you? Because I was walking around trying to find the sheriff's office. I was calm through that. I made some light conversation, said, hey, I just didn't know which one was the sheriff's building. It says health department on the outside. Oh yeah, we just moved into this building. It says, so anyways, it was all going well. I was composed. I was ready to ask him about 3 mysterious deaths that the locals have been telling me about. As I started to tell him about those cases, and he kind of gave me the stink eye a little bit, like what's going on with these questions, I started to get a little nervous. And I feel ashamed because I got a little nervous. I could tell my breath was getting a little harder. It was harder for me to stay composed. I'm sure he, being a law enforcement officer, detected I was nervous. He had the upper hand and he fucking knew it. And it didn't go great because he basically blew me off and was like, not going to talk to you about any of these cases. Have a great day. And, it didn't go super well. So thank you for appreciating that it took a lot of nerve and effort for me to walk into the sheriff's department in the first place and start asking questions about, hey, do you guys cover up murders routinely in this? I didn't word it that way, but that's what I was basically doing. It's very nerve-wracking to come in and say, hey, locals kind of say that it isn't like you guys said it did. So can I see your files? I can't even believe I got the nerve to do that. I'm growing as a human being. So thank you for appreciating that. Thomas Sharp 6540 also says, Dago, they would just transfer her back to the county. What is that conversation? So one of the things I talked about with Dago in particular is how I want to do the right thing by these victims in this county and help them out. But I'm terrified that I'm going to make a mistake and give somebody bad advice and it's going to get them killed. And I don't know that I can live with myself if I would do that. At one point, Dago, for example, made the comment, well, maybe these girls, if they, like, for example, one girl was had a warrant for her arrest in the county, and that we were talking about whether they should turn themselves in or not. And if the county is as corrupt as they say it is, turning yourself in at a corrupt county doesn't sound like a good idea. So we were talking about the difficulties of me talking to somebody who's kind of on the run, and whether or not you advise them to turn themselves into a corrupt county or to stay on the run. One suggestion, Dago said, well, maybe they can go to a different county and turn themselves in there. To which this person replied, Dago, they'll just transfer her back to that county. And everybody seemed to agree. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. So you go turn yourself into a different county, and they're just going to transfer you to the very county you were trying to avoid. Now, the problem with that is, as Dago and I realized, is this is exactly what we're talking about. If I were to advise this girl to go turn herself in at a different county, like that's going to somehow protect her, and all they do is transfer her to the very county that she was trying to avoid being put in, I then gave her bad advice. And what if she gets killed in the process of that? I would have a hard time living with myself. And so I'm terrified a little bit on how to provide guidance to these victims in this county, realizing that if I make the wrong advice, and if they take the advice of my advice and I led them astray and they end up getting killed, I will have that living in my conscience for a very long time. So it's tough. Going to Ange K again, a big supporter of the show. Lee will not be awake at 9 o'clock in the morning. Any bets? She's talking about the fact that, again, in the Letcher County, Jody from the Defense Rest is going to go on with a couple of the victims in the county to tell their story, and they're going to do it at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is like 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time in the morning. I tend to wake up at 7 a.m., not 6 a.m. So Ange K is like, any bets that Lee won't make it? I'm going to try to do my best. Hopefully, I hope they'll be able to report tomorrow on the live show that I did make it, like I said I was going to. We'll see. Cat K15 says from Dago's channel, the drone footage is so cool. For those who got to watch our show, this is a Delphi comment. So after we got done with Letcher County, we talked a little bit about Delphi. In Delphi, Indiana, on the anniversary of Abby Williams and Liberty German's death in 2017, murdered by someone that was allegedly Richard Allen, but many of us don't think it's Richard Allen. Reading the appeal of Richard Allen, we think Richard Allen was railroaded in that case and likely is not the person who actually killed those girls. We went to, my wife and I went there along with Ange K, who has several comments on this feed as well. And we put boots on the ground in Delphi. We walked to Monon High Bridge. We filmed it with my drone and got footage up and down the drone, along the creek bed, the Deer Creek area, along the path, the walkway, the cemetery, many places associated with that thing. We did some aerial footage with the drone, and a lot of people really appreciated that perspective and me walking them through on how the area looks and how it feels. And so that was a special moment for our show last night. So Ange K again, who was there with us in Delphi, Lee and I would have walked the bridge if it wasn't blocked. Yeah, we absolutely. So they have a metal walkway that's for people to come out to the bridge where the girls walked. That's been reinforced and now very safe to walk on. Where the bridge was not at the time in 2017, it was safe to walk on. Girls were walking across a very broken down old railroad bridge. Part of that bridge, the old bridge, still exists in the old format, the way that it was when the girls walked across it, and some of it has been redone. So we walked on the redone portion up to a railing which blocks you from going to the unsafe area of the bridge. We actually contemplated going over there because there was no signs that said you couldn't climb the railing and go over onto the unsafe part of the bridge. In fact, there are signs up that say, venture at your own risk. If you get hurt out here, it's on you. Okay, so we've been warned. So we thought about it. We contemplated it. There was no sign saying it would be trespassing to climb over the rail onto the old Monon High Bridge, railroad ties, and walk across. We thought about it. We thought about it, and we thought about it. The problem is, the railing is such a way that to climb over the railing, it could be possible to slip in a really bad place, making it very, very dangerous to even climb over the railing. So we opted not to for the sake of safety. Didn't want to be that dumb guy who's like, hold my beer, I got this. So Ange and I agreed. Had it not been for that railing right there, we probably would have just walked that bridge. We were ready to do it. And then last for our comments tonight from Tomboy Charm on Dago's side of the house, Lee, have you ever reached out to Bob and Allie and see if they will talk about the case? They were there during the trial, and Bob was close to Rick's family. So I have not reached out to any of the locals in the case. I'm new to the Richard Allen case. I didn't follow it when it originally happened. I only got into it after the appeal. And so I'm getting up to speed right now. And I'm I'm not a small YouTube channel. I'm a mid-sized YouTube channel, but I'm still at the point where a lot of people don't know who I am. So I don't have the clout to just say, hey, I'm so-and-so. And they're like, oh, well, I'll talk to him. So I haven't done it yet, working up the courage to talk to locals. I would love any locals in that area who are willing to talk about and share their stories to reach out to me. And then we'll just see if we can reach out to them if they don't do so. So thank you all for watching another Fireside Chat. I hope you appreciated it. Thank you all to those who are in the show. I didn't get everybody's comment, but I selected a few. My nose has been itching, super, super dry. It's the winter and my nose is dry. So if you think that I'm doing cocaine and I'm constantly doing this, I'm not. It's not about drugs. I just literally have an itchy nose because it's dry as hell. And I can't stop itching my nose. It looks like I've got some kind of issue going on, but I don't. Other than I have a dry nose. Thanks for watching. Check out Crimes After Dark tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where your questions and comments might be read in the next Fireside Chat like this one. Have a great one. Talk to you later.